Greetings, friends, and we're on day 7 of our devotionals, and we're still on chapter 2 of the book Desire of Ages, which says the chosen people. So, we are learning about the Israelites and how they actually lost sight of God's love. I want to read a very interesting paragraph from the book, and it's page 29, page 29, paragraph 2, and it says, as they departed from God, the Jews, in a great degree, lost sight of the teaching of the ritual service. That service had been instituted by Christ Himself. In every part, it was a symbol of Him, and it had been full of vitality and spiritual beauty. But the Jews lost the spiritual life from their ceremonies and clung to the dead forms. They trusted to the sacrifices and ordinances themselves instead of resting upon Him to whom they pointed. So we know that those ordinances or services or ceremonies actually pointed to Christ. But instead of them learning how those services were supposed to guide them, they then focused more on those rituals. Furthermore, it says, in order to supply the place of that which they had lost, the priests and rabbis multiplied requirements of their own, and the more rigid they grew, the less of the love of God was manifested. They measured their holiness by the multitude of their ceremonies, while their hearts were filled with pride and hypocrisy. I want us to pay particular attention to how they focused more on those rituals, and they actually then measured their holiness using those services. So just a point to ponder on was to say, as the Israelites of today, do we not have services today that we do or that we perform that we actually then feel or believe that we are holy by partaking in those services? And don't we then become self-righteous and think that maybe doing some sort of service actually makes you even closer to Christ? As we learn here from the book Desire of Ages, it tells us how then they lost sight of the love of God, and also they went on even to add more requirements of themselves. And the last phrase talks about how their hearts were filled with pride and hypocrisy. We know that Satan fell from heaven because of the issue of pride. And we know also of the Pharisees, how they are viewed as hypocrites when you read in the book of Matthew. So I think it's a warning to us to say, are we not doing some things that will make us full of pride and forget God, who we are supposed to see in everything that we do? And also, are we not pretending by partaking in some ordinances or services instead of us focusing on God, who's the one who instituted those things? I want to go back also a bit to paragraph 1 of the same page 29, which says, after the return from Babylon, much attention was given to religious instruction. All over the country, synagogues were erected where the law was expounded by the priests and scribes, and schools were established, which together with the arts and sciences professed to teach the principles of righteousness. But these agencies became corrupted. During the captivity, many of the people had received hidden ideas and customs, and these were brought into their religious service. In many things, they conformed to the practices of idolaters. Wow. That made me to think that the church today, there is always controversy around how maybe worship is conducted, how some preachers preach in the pulpit, or how generally the order of things is done. So we learn here that the Israelites, because of their captivity and all, they actually then borrowed some ideas from the heathens, and they then brought those things into the religious service. So even the church today, we need to think that don't we have some things that we've incorporated from the world and we've brought into the service of the Lord? There is a lot of controversy, especially around music, to say, no, we are bringing some secular practices into our church worship, or the music that is being sung nowadays is not that of maybe old-time religion. People are turning away from what is supposed to be done. So I think as we reflect on today's devotion, let's think through about how we are conducting our worship services, how our religious practices are being done, or are we still in compliance with what the Lord expects, and are we also not behaving like hypocrites, or are we not full of pride in our hearts because we feel that we are holy by doing some certain things? May the Lord help us that we follow his precepts, and as his chosen people, we should seek to do things as according to his will, and remember how he loved us. And also, may we seek to understand his ways and never trust on our own understanding or wisdom. May God bless you all.